Sometimes it does that. I don't.
But there there was a few low points where there wasn't as much hope, but I would have rather sat in prison for 10 years giving it my all and fighting than rolling over and taking a plea for two. Like I did not want to give up, and I started getting a lot of traction. We were covering this story. There were different media organizations that were covering it. I had different state reps and senators and just people backing me and the gun owners caucus, and I had this huge support group behind me. And part of me just I didn't want to let them down. I didn't want to give up, and I at that point I felt very confident that we would win at some point. I just had to be patient and keep persevering through it. But there was a handful of plea deals that weren't too terrible. Like if I would have taken those pleas, I'd probably be in the same position that I am now, timeline wise. But if I would have taken a plea and they would have made case law, or if we just washed it away and I took a plea and they took my guns and we just called it a day, then what happens to the next person that comes through and gets screwed over? That was what I was worried about. It's like if I have the means to fight this now, why would I take the easy way out and just pass it on to somebody else that may not have the resources or the stamina or whatever you want to call it to actually just keep pushing on. So that was one of the main reasons I turned down every plea and I kept going.
Well, I think that's the thing that stood out to me the most about you and your character was what you said just now, and you said it last week when I had you on as well, was that you stayed in the fight because you didn't want other people to have to be going through it and being in the fight. So you were ready to continue the fight even if Vagel lost.
Oh yeah, I wasn't gonna give up until we made it to the U.S. Supreme Court. I'm very stubborn, but I knew we were gonna win at some point. I didn't know when it was gonna be, but I wasn't gonna give up.
Skipper, are you back? Well, he looks like he's back, but I don't think he's hearing us. We were last time we talked about this. There was the reality of, had you gone to trial and lost in court with your criminal history, which is negligent, there is none, you weren't going to get the full 10 years. Even a harebrained judge with an agenda would have had a hard time giving you the full 10 years. But even if you went in and you got a year and a day or something like that, you still would have been fighting this case after you had served all your time.
Yeah.
That's what's so mind-blowing to me, which is the case for some people, but normally when you hear about cases like that drag on, the people are still in prison while they're filing their appeals and taking it to the state Supreme Court or to a federal district court or to SCOTUS. Has it on the financial end, because you hired an attorney that has now become a family friend.
Yeah.
But that didn't get you a family discount. So you actually were slotted to have some money set aside to go to school, and that ended up getting used to help pay for your retainer for the attorney, correct?
Yep.
Sitting as things are now, you still have outstanding legal bills from all of this, even though you, for all intents and purposes, were never now technically charged. Cases dismissed, charges are dropped. But now there's like, you spent thousands and thousands, you're in debt basically for something that you legally didn't do wrong. You did nothing wrong, and you still had to go into debt to defend yourself. Is it going to be a while before you can recover from that, or did you win the lottery in the last week, or?
No, I don't want to. It's either get even or get even worse with buying scratchers or going to the casinos. We'll probably stay away from those. But The Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, they did make a website. It's a 2alaw.com, and that has all the information on the case, and there's links to all the donation sites on there. So we still are accepting donations, but we know that people have their own responsibilities they need to take care of, but anything is welcomed and accepted.
Well, the great thing about this audience is that they're all poor like us, but they still give. So we're thankful. I've watched, I've watched them come around other good causes for veterans and non-veterans alike. When you won, because technically Vagel winning was a victory for you as well. They didn't officially drop the charges right away.
It took about 6 days or something. It was the Wednesday the 5th or the 6th, whatever it was, and it was Tuesday the 11th that mine were dropped.
So then your charges are formally dropped by the county attorney's office, and so you made another phone call because you were owed something. Tell everybody about that phone call, who you called and what you were told right out of the gate.
I called the Sherburne County evidence technician, and I said, "Hey, my name's Walker Anderson." I gave him my case number and everything. I said, you have some of my property in an evidence locker, and my charges have been dropped. I'd like to come pick up my property. And then that's when they told me that for them to give me my firearms back, I would need to get a carry permit and/or purchase permit. I would need to schedule a time to come in, allow for about an hour because they'd need to do a background check before they would give me back my property that they never should have taken in the first place.
What, for the audience, what was your response to that?
There were some choice words, but no, I was extremely frustrated. It made no sense. It seemed a little backwards. I'm like, how I already have them. They're mine. They're not yours. You took them. Give them back. I didn't give you a freaking background check when you stole them from me, so give them back. But so then I went in to go get my purchase permit. I took my carry course class, and I was going to go do it. But then I guess Joe Brott, he sent an email to my attorney. He said that he just became aware of the situation, and he said that I will not need to get a carry permit or a purchase permit. So as soon as I got that email, I called the county, made an appointment for 3 hours later, and went and picked up my firearms.
Yeah, so that because there was some discussion about what do we do here as well, because you're one of those that says, no, I'm not going to just cave in just because that's the hoop I have to jump through. You had some options in front of you, which was one, doing everything that they said to be able to get your weapons back, that your personal property, like as you said, was stolen from you, or to fight. And yet, without a lot of effort, on your part, the sheriff, I think, probably saw the political handwriting, even though we now know he's not running. At least that's the last time we heard he wasn't running for re-election. Still saw some of the political handwriting on the wall and said, no, we're gonna fix this. What was that? Well, actually, let me go about it this way. So as you're waiting to decide or find out what's going to happen with the ones that you were rightly owed, you decided to test the system last weekend, Saturday.
I went out to Runnings and walked in, and there was this very, very shiny Henry 3030 sitting in the rack. And I was like, well, let's see if I can pass that 4473. And I went background check cleared about 10 minutes, and I walked out with my cowboy gun that I've wanted since I was 8 years old. So we're finally done. We're free and clear.
And by the way, folks, that is a fine sounding weapon when he fires it. I may or may not have a video that I'm sitting on to stitch, but did that feel like, okay, I've still got one more little battle to fight, but okay, I have my life back. Was that how it felt in the moment?
There has been 4 massive victories where it's like, all right, we're almost there. Like, okay, it's done. We're winning. But the other side of that coin was we had these sure, like we're gonna get them here. We're gonna get them at this contested here, and we're gonna nail them here. We got them. We got them. We got them. And then they'd say, no, this evidence doesn't count. We're not going to use this. No, that doesn't count. Or they would just completely ignore stuff. So we got very used to thinking we were going to win and then just not playing by the rules. So it was kind of hard. You kind of had to keep your guard up when we got good news towards the end. But when that Bagel case came and it was like, all right, it's done. It's done. It's done. We got excited. But part of me is like, okay, I can't quite celebrate yet. And then my charges got dropped, and I was like, well, they might still try to do something else now. I can't quite celebrate yet. And then I was kind of right because they wouldn't give me my guns back. So then I went and purchased a firearm. I was able to pass a background check. I got in my car after that. And I kind of just sat there for a minute, and I just kind of reflected. I'm like, wow, it's just about over. And then when I did finally get that phone call from my lawyer saying I'm good to go pick him up, and I made my appointment, went in, grabbed my guns, brought them home, and I just laid them out on the dining room table and just stared there for a minute. And it was just little pieces of aluminum and steel that took away 3.5 years, and it's finally over. But it definitely it finally feels real now. It was very surreal, and just it felt like a dream for the first week or so, but it's definitely starting to feel normal again.
I think for me, one of the things that really drove home the level of stupidity that you were dealing with was, I don't remember if it was you telling me over the phone or if it was something your mother had said, but it might have been you when we were talking about it off air. Was that in one of the hearings, you discovered the sheer stupidity of in this case, the public servant sector, the public employee sector in court, where they were trying to explain what an AR was and what it wasn't, and what a pistol was and what a pistol wasn't. And
yeah, the blatant stupidity of the court system. Like the process is the punishment. That's all I gotta say. But no, there was countless just head scratching. Like you're supposed to be a professional here. Like, how did you pass law school? How can you be this dumb? There was a lot of that. Like I just kind of like, okay. Like for one of them, so the Minnesota DNR, when they seize firearms from poachers, they will auction them off. So there's a event center that's up in Princeton, that's in Sherburne County. So the state of Minnesota, the DNR, they auctioned off 7 pre-1968 unserialized firearms in Sherburne County while I was being charged by the state of Minnesota in Sherburne County for having firearms without serial numbers. And we presented that as evidence, and they kind of just ignored it and said it was different. The Vagel case, when it first got thrown out at the county level, and we said, hey, this got dismissed, dismiss ours. And the prosecutor's like, well, he had a pistol. These are rifles. But I'm like, no, one of them was a pistol. So can you drop one of them at least? And then they kind of just ignored it and pretended like it didn't happen. There was a case in Sherburne County. This was in Big Lake. There was a lack of a better term, a tweaker, dude that was high on meth, hung a sawed-off shotgun with a serial number scratched off of it out his window at somebody doing a roofing inspection, took off running. They finally found him after a day and a half. Big Lake PD arrested him, sent him over to county, and the prosecuting attorney just dropped all charges and released him. There was another case. A friend of mine had deputies out doing an investigation for a different thing, but went and looked through his weapons or his safe and found a bunch of unserialized firearms that he had in there that he made himself. And he asked him, he goes, oh, are you going to arrest me now and take my shit? And the deputies looked at him and said, no, we know they're legal. Plus it's in the Minnesota Supreme Court right now. So he got that from the county saying, no, they're fine. Don't worry about it. While I was actively getting charged. And then it's like, why Why is this the hill that the county wants to die on? It's like, why me? I see it dropping everywhere else. You're releasing real criminals, but you take a 20-year-old. I personally thought it was for the last few legislative sessions they've been trying to pass bills to make weapons like these illegal, and they either never make it out of committee or they never make it past the House floor. So when you get a freaking left-leaning whack-do like Keith Ellison as our attorney general that's trying to make a name for himself or just kind of trying to destroy our state even more than it already is, sees this as an opportunity to misinterpret a statute, create case law, and create law without getting a vote. But there's dozens of different times where I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is where my tax dollars are going, is to fight stuff like this. But there's a guy that got released from prison. He was a convicted felon, got his hands on an AR down in Minneapolis, started shooting rounds up in the air, and one of them came down and struck an 8-year-old girl, and they released him. But I'm sitting here waiting to get my property back, then I did literally nothing wrong. So it was just very frustrating just sitting there like, all right, why? Like, what's the logic here? And I then realized that there is very little to no logic or reason.
It's all agenda.
Yeah, no, it is another reason not to trust government, I guess. But I've lost full faith and trust in our legal system over the last 3 years.
You mentioned the name Keith Ellison. For those who don't know, I'd be shocked if anybody in the Veteran Nation audience doesn't know, because Minnesota's been the subject of a lot of conversation on this channel, even when I'm not around. You mentioned Keith Ellison, and he took a personal interest in this, like to ensure that this was charged.
Yeah, he's a crook. There's evidence will come out at some point on that, but no, he's got his own personal agenda. I don't know if this is Soros backed or whatever it is, but there's a big anti-gun movement in the state of Minnesota that he's front running. And even after the Vagel case came down, there was a state representative that picked up on it, made a statement on it, saying that they're going to push through legislation and how disappointed they are with the Supreme Court for making the correct ruling on it, and how they're going to go through and pass legislation, and they're going to come take our guns after they get that passed. So I was questioned on that. I said, I'd like to see you try. We'll see if it makes it through committee or the House floor. Good luck. It's not going anywhere. I think the state of Minnesota is starting to get fed up with this.
Well, the reality is, and people all over the country need to understand this, because there are other left-leaning states and even, moderately red states where some of these battles are going to be fought. But when they're looking at the NFA, the National Firearms Act, it's any firearm made before
1968.
Yeah, 68. None of those weapons, firearms, personal sidearms, handguns, rifles, whatever, none of those were required to have serial numbers.
Yep.
And if Minnesota gets its way, if these progressive left Marxist legislators get their way, and they are able to get the legislation passed and signed into law, that will take firearms that you've owned in your family that for generations, or that you've built by hand with no intent of using for commerce, in other words, to make money on. That criminalizes your grandpa's 410 that he bought in 1935 that's been meticulously cared for. That makes you a felon for having received that and having it in your possession.
It would turn thousands, if not tens of thousands, of Minnesotans into felons overnight if something like that would be passed.
And the thing that I want people to understand, and once again, this is my opinion, I'm not speaking for Walker, but this is what I want our audience and people from Veteran Nation who watch and know me. Maybe if you're watching because I told you about Veteran Nation on my channel, Walker had not one but two deputies who were ignorant of the totality of the law. I don't know how they could be, because they knew what statutes they were citing, and the verbiage in those state statutes is very clear. There is no room for interpretation or confusion. a county attorney and a sheriff who claims to be a pro Second Amendment, making Sherburne County a Second Amendment sanctuary county, say the law's the law, so you're going to have to deal with this in court. Folks, when you're faced with law enforcement telling you, no, we're pro Second Amendment, but once a law is passed, they're going to enforce that law. You have to start scratching your head and asking yourself if law enforcement's actually really on your side. Because if they're going to enforce bad law that violates the Constitution and is going to make thousands of people in one state alone criminals overnight, if passed, who's safe? Now, Walker, when you started this, you had this mindset of, what can it hurt to talk to them? What can it hurt to comply? I haven't done anything wrong. I'm going to be protected. And you had said something which I fully understand and support you having this opinion. But you said, look, I'm still going to back the blue, but I'm not going to talk to them about anything anymore. Can you help people understand how you can say you're going to back the blue, but I'm not cooperating with them? Because I think a lot of people say, how can you claim you're backing the blue, support law enforcement, but then if you are being questioned or whatever, you're not going to talk, you're not going to cooperate? Because I think it's really important for people to understand how you got to where you are now because of your willingness to cooperate.
Well, I was doing nothing wrong. I knew I was doing nothing wrong. It took 3.5 years to do nothing wrong. So even if you're doing nothing wrong, they can either pretend like you are or find something that you didn't realize. And I will back the blue. We need law and order. We can't have anarchy, but I'm not playing their games. I'm just gonna shut up and call Uncle Blair, to my lawyer. That's sit there, be quiet. And sorry, officer, I respect my privacy. I'm not answering any questions. No, you can't look in there. Like that's what it's going to be from now on.
Has it, in this last week, have you felt yourself relaxing now? Because I know you've given some single finger salutes to certain people within your county over the last the half peace sign. I know you've done that. Have you found yourself relaxing a little bit, or is there still? And I think if the answer is yes, I think it's justified. Is there still some a little bit of angst and bitterness in you that it took them so long, even over the last 3.5 years, but even since Vogel was decided for them to do the right thing, that you're like, no, you don't get a break until you actually have earned it now?
Well, I mean, we're getting a new county sheriff at midterm. We just appointed the county attorney. She retired halfway through her term, and the county commissioners appointed a new county attorney. So like the law in Sherburne County is changing. I guess I'll have to take that with a grain of salt and see if it's for the better or for the worst, or if it's just nothing's actually changing. It's just two new people that are standing in those positions. But time will tell with that. But I mean, even now it's like, yeah, I'm done with this, but is the county or the state, are they going to have a grudge and try to get me on something else now? Like, oh, you got away the last time, you did something dumb. Now we're gonna nail your nuts to the chalkboard now, or what's the future hold with it? I don't think I'm going to be able to just go away quietly. I think they're going to hold a grudge because it's the government.
That's that must be a Sherburne County exclusive. I've never heard anyone use the phrase "nail my nuts to the chalkboard" before. So that must be something from Sherburne County. So
we got a lot of weird shit up here, like deputies that don't know what the law are and attorneys.
There's so much about all of this that has just been, terribly frustrating. Sitting on it, because I had Shane on, who is, your representative, Minnesota House representative up there. I had Shane on about a year after this all took place, because you guys kind of kept the lid on it. You kept it tamped down, and then kind of finally said, no, we're going to start making noise. And so your mom started coming out and talking about this. Shane was cautiously talking about it just because he couldn't be seen as trying to interfere. But at one point, when your mom is out there defending you, which, by the way, folks, we're still innocent until proven guilty, which I want people to understand. No one's ever treated that way.
No, that's what they say, but
they don't treat you that way.
No, if that was the case, I would have kept my firearms, and when they proved I couldn't have them, they could have taken them from me. But no, they assumed I was guilty. They took my shit, and I had to prove I was innocent. It wasn't the state proving that I was guilty. It was me proving my own innocence, and that is a big flaw in our legal system. You can say one thing and do something completely different.
Tell them how much the prosecuting attorney initially wanted to ask for you to have to bond to be able to get out.
Yeah, they let me just wander around. Like, some crazed freaking redneck kid building weapons of war in his garage. We need to lock him up immediately. But we'll just let him wander around for like 6 months and not tell him anything. He probably won't get into trouble again, but he probably will get into trouble again. That's why we got to put him in prison so he doesn't get in trouble. Like, it just the logic. I don't track it. But yeah, so they just let me wander around for 6 months. And I finally get my bail hearing notice after 6 months. So I show up for my bail hearing with a lawyer in a suit. I looked like a freaking Bond villain. It was perfect. And sit down, and the prosecuting attorney's like, we'd like to set bail. I think it was like 15 or 20 grand. And the judge kind of just like turned her head and looked at the prosecutor. Was like, why? Like, I think she kind of like lost professionalism in a second there and was just like, why? She's like, he's here. You let him wander around for 6 months. He showed up with an attorney, and she did the little smacky thing, and she's like, nope. He's like, I'm releasing you with no bail and no restrictions. She just said, don't break the law again. And then that judge retired. I really liked her. I wish I would have had her the whole time. Maybe it wouldn't have gone on so long. But yeah, I had 3 different judges throughout this entire thing.
But even in what you said there, when she slams the gavel down and says no bail and no restrictions, but she still admonishes you at the end, but don't break the law again.
Yeah, or she said just don't break any laws. I think that's what
okay.
No, she said again. Like I said, this was 3 years ago. But yeah, no, she's like, just pretty much don't be stupid, don't get in trouble. That was basically her. That was the judge's instructions. Don't be a dumbass. That was
which is my advice to everybody now, especially in Minnesota when dealing with law enforcement. Just don't be stupid, and by stupid is you don't cooperate and you don't answer questions. That's if you cooperate and answer questions, you're being stupid. Because as we've learned from Walker's case, cooperating and answering questions doesn't help. It just doesn't help. It doesn't help you at all. What do you completed trade school?
Yep. So I went to a program that we have here in Minnesota at Hennepin Tech. It's the Ford Asset Program. So they specialty trained me to work on Ford and Lincoln vehicles specifically. So then I work at a Ford dealership.
Well, I thought, wait a minute, like there are mechanics for Fords, because according to your family, Fords never break down.
No, we mainly a lot of maintenance. That's basically all we do. They're perfect and don't have any issues. No, I don't think I'm ever going to run out of work. But they're still better than those Dodges that Representative Mecklin is obsessed with for some reason.
He does. He does like his Dodges, doesn't he?
Yep. He likes to call me when they break too.
He calls the Ford mechanic when the Dodges break down. So you came out of pocket for that, because the money that was supposed to help pay for schooling went to help with legal bills, retainers, and whatnot. So you came out of pocket. You completed that. You're a mechanic. You're living life. You're eyeing the future, and this has motivated you in a way that maybe wouldn't have motivated you before. You're looking at replacing Representative Mecklin, kicking Shane out to a higher level of office or a different office.
Yeah, I keep bugging about that. Yeah,
maybe being a member of the House of Representatives.
Yeah, that is a very real possibility. I guess the big thing is just going to be timing. Whether it be when he retires or moves on to a higher level of government, you will see my name on that ballot.
Given any thought to running for the county commission to give it a wink and a nod to see what it looks like? Because you guys could use some reasonable people like yourself on the county commission.
Could, I guess, if I'm going to dip my hat into politics, I think kicking out an incumbent from the same political party at primaries might not be the best way to jump into it. But if I need to, I will.
You would disappear in the trunk of a Dodge somewhere if you tried to primary Shane.
Oh yeah, I know. That's what I said. Hey, Shane, go do something better. I'm like, you're meant for more than this. He goes, no, I like this. I'm like, I'll primary. He goes, no, you won't. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Are people well, when you went to Runnings, and for those that don't know, Runnings is kind of a farm and fleet style store that's pretty big in North and South Dakota and Minnesota, and I think into Wisconsin now.
Like a Fleet Farmer Shields, but with a better fishing selection.
and normal people.
Yeah.
Mostly. So when you went to Runnings, you said that the guy at the counter was like, "Oh, I know who you are."
Yeah, it's like this happened 3 times. So I walked into Runnings or whatever, and I was like, yeah, I go, to be completely honest, I don't know if this is going to pass. I don't know how long it takes to update stuff. And he's like, yeah, we know who you are, Walker. I'm like, oh, cool. And then he's like, to be honest, he goes, it's been pretty recent. He goes, I've been following your case. I know it just got dropped. He goes, it might not go through. And we were both surprised it spit right back out, and I walked out with it. And then immediately after buying it, I'm like, well, I have to go run some rounds downrange. So I walk into a gun range, local gun range. Walk in, was kind of telling them like, yeah, I went and bought myself a victory gun. And then he's looked up, he goes, Walker, and then shakes my hand. He goes, hey, yeah, we've been watching or whatever. And then I went out to Shields to go get some ammo for something else or whatever it was. And one of the guys up in the gun department up there walked up and shook my hand and said that he'd been watching the case. So the gun community is a very, very tight community, which is very nice.
It's weird, isn't it, to be recognized by people you do not know?
Oh yeah, and then even just with just being a part of like with the parades with the local government or the volunteer work or playing baseball for town, or just I'm everywhere and anywhere at any given time. So it's I can't, it seems like I can't go nowhere without bumping into somebody I know. But even now it's gotten much worse because now it's like, oh yeah, I've been following your case. Like, well, thank you. I couldn't have done it if you weren't. So it's been nice.
Do you other than potentially running for office, do you see yourself kind of settling back into normal agrarian rural Minnesota life? Or
Probably. I lost my router, so I haven't been able to build any more guns yet. So I got to go buy a new one.
how do you lose a router?
Well, when this all happened, like I kind of like hid everything. It's like we're not. So like I found like one piece of the jig in one spot. I found the other piece in a bag somewhere else. I found all the lures that I hadn't finished kind of scattered around. I'm like, okay, I think I found everything. No idea where the router is. That's
I don't have a router. I lost it in a terrible boating accident.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like we don't see record of you having a boat. Were you using an unregistered boat? Sorry,
yeah, kidding, right? that would be the DNR right there.
Yeah, like, gotcha. You thought you could get away with it.
We got you on that one. Are you gonna continue? Do you think now to if you do happen to come across another router, you think you're gonna build another platform again, or are you kind of, excuse the pun, gun shy?
Oh no, I'm not gun shy. I fought really hard to be able to do this again. I'm not gonna stop.
Got any plans? So like, are you gonna do something like big now, or are you looking at some sort of really challenging platform, or?
Well, I want to do I gotta pay off some lawyer fees before I finally start dumping money into guns again. So I got two of them that I just got back. And those are very expensive guns now. They some cheap little piece of junk 5.56 that costs tens of thousands of dollars now. But no, I'll do a few. I'll probably do like a 300 blackout, get my tax stamp for a suppressor, and do subsonics. Get a little plinker, maybe like a 50 Beowulf, just to kind of show off at the range. But the plan is I'd like to have a firearm that can shoot any round that I come across. So if ammo becomes scarce or shit hits the fan, I can always defend myself. So I'll have to have a pretty decent size gun safe at some point. But,
You could always 3D print one.
yeah, I might have to order one of those again after everything's
The last after the last one disappeared.
Yeah.
Well, like I told you about this this platform, Veteran Nation, and that we believe this was a very important conversation for people to hear, because normally what we do here, as you can tell with the name of the show, is Veteran Nation. We do tend to talk almost exclusively to vets, but I wanted our vet loving audience to hear this, because this stuff is happening literally across the entire country every day. And a lot of times it's happening to veterans, and they walk away, scratching their head going like,
you get shot at and almost blown up for your full tour, then you come back and get spit on and the system tries to screw you over. It makes me sick.
Or you watch somebody else who you believed you were fighting for, and there again, we can have an entire conversation and debate about whether or not going to foreign countries is fighting for American freedom and liberty. We can debate that. But the reality is that dozens and dozens, if not hundreds upon hundreds and hundreds of veterans every day look back on their time and say to themselves, I'm serving my country. I served my country. This isn't what I served it for, is to see these things happen.
There we go. Something happened there?
Yeah, you dropped down for a minute. Did you get a call?
Yeah.
There we go. And vets out there, if you're active duty people that are watching, that oath you swore I know how important it is to you. And stories like Walker's are 100% why we have to stay vigilant and stay in the fight and be supportive of one another, no matter where we live. I don't care if you're in California or if you're in Florida or Maine or Massachusetts or in Minnesota. Be paying attention to these stories, because I'll tell you, I know Walker's been paying attention to a story in another state that has no personal. He doesn't know the individual personally, and one of the first things he asked me was, "Hey, have you ever covered?" His name's
Dexter Taylor.
Dexter Taylor, yeah. Have you ever covered Dexter Taylor's story? And you even alluded to the idea that as bad as things have been for you, Dexter Taylor's story is exponentially worse, because he actually got convicted and is in prison for a very long time now.
He got his door kicked down by the ATF. They took all of his guns, and now he's sitting in Rikers. And he's trying to get funding so he can go to the appeal level and try to get overturned. But it's another state issue. But it's another stupid gun law in New York. We've got our own shit here in Minnesota, but New York is twice as bad as we got it here. And the Bruin decision, which has been a massive decision that's helped with a lot of gun issues, that came out of New York because they were doing shit they weren't supposed to, and the Supreme Court yelled at him once. So I mean, once he gets the funding so where he can go to appeals, he's going to win, but it's just going to take some time. And every single time we have one of these cases that it pushes them back a little bit, we start to inch more and more and more of getting our rights back. And that's what we got to keep doing. Just keep marching, keep pushing back. You give the government an inch, they'll take a mile. So never stop.
A lot of the people that watch here tend to follow other people on X or Twitter, especially. Do you have a Twitter profile that people can check in with you at?
Yeah, it's just look up Walker Anderson. You'll find me in a cowboy hat for the profile picture.
It's true. It's real. He does have a cowboy hat on in his profile picture. It's hard to explain to people who don't live in Minnesota, but we actually we know what cowboy boots and cowboy hats are here. So, we've had some technical issues, and I think we've told enough of your story. I think people have been able to ascertain, what's been going on and why this is important to Veteran Nation as a platform and a foundation. Walker, you know that I'm personally going to always be available if there's anything else that needs to be talked about or if you need support. And I'm going to continue to share out your website so we can see if we can have people help find a way to help fund your paying off the last year legal bills, because we wouldn't want Uncle Blair to go without Christmas this year.
Yeah, his kids got to eat.
His kids got to eat. I really thank you for your time, and keep me posted, keep Veteran Nation, keep Skipper posted. If, like I said, if there's anything we can do for you. And I don't know how we're going to end this other than to say, you go ahead and get out of here, and then I'll close it up.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, young man. Take care. I don't know if when I close, if Skipper's going to just be streaming dead air for everybody, which could drive up his watch time. I don't know how that's going to work, but I really appreciate you guys listening to Walker's story. If you watched on my channel, thank you very much. If you this is the first time here in hearing this story, thank you for paying attention and spreading the story around. If you want a video that doesn't have some of the technical and sound issues in it, I know Skipper will not have a problem with me saying, look, you can listen to both of my interviews, one with Walker and then with his mother, Sarah. Skipper will gladly let me promote those here. I want to tell you guys too, real quick, we're working on another episode of Vet Nation. I don't know what the topic's going to be for Unexplained, but we are working on it. And for those of you that know AVA Kahanu, and he wanted to be part of this today, but he had to make an emergency trip to the VA. So if you guys would be sending warm, positive thoughts, good vibes, prayers, whatever it is that you do, because I know we have a wide variety of people on that follow this channel. He's dealing with a pretty painful injury that he's been limping around on for a few months. So be praying for AVA. He is in charge of Vet Nation Unexplained, and he has got a lot of stuff in the works for that. So he's working on doing some investigations. He might even come all the way out to Minnesota to do an investigation in a place close to me that is allegedly haunted. He will be the believer. I will be the skeptic in that situation. Also, I have recently been made aware of another podcast here in Minnesota. I'll get to the cooking, by the way. Been made aware of another podcast here in Minnesota. It's called Sentinels of Liberty. And some of you will remember Skipper and I had my good friend Rebecca Whiting on a couple of years ago when she started to run for office as a libertarian candidate here in the state of Minnesota. Well, Sentinels of Liberty reached out to me this week and asked me to be doing a show with them. And so I wanted to promote that here. I will be on with him live next Saturday at 3 p.m. He's a great guy. I think you guys are going to love him. So I will make sure to share with Skipper and see if we can set up a way for that to restream through the Vet Nation. I'm pretty sure that the host of that show won't have a problem with that. Skipper. Oh yeah. And I don't remember when the cruise is, but if you're still wanting to go on the cruise, I think you reach out to Georgie and Skipper to get that set up. They're excited for it. I know they're really looking forward to having that cruise. It's in February, like I said, I think. So make sure that you tune in for that. Keep your eyes open for Coffee with Skipper. You know how he is. He's a Marine. He's normally pretty reliable. My plan for the next Cooking with TC is we're going, bear with me. What we're going to do is we're going to have the stream set up, and I'm going to have a laptop with a camera in the kitchen set up and ready to stream for that. But what we'll do as part of the show, so it'll be a longer Cooking with TC than even the last couple, or the last one. We're going to go out live on, I'm going to stream from my phone. We're going to go to the local grocery store. Local, not a big major chain grocery store. We're just going to go to our local grocery store here in the town that I live in. We're going to go to the produce and meat section, the meat department, and in the dairy department. And we are going to go through and we're going to hand pick vegetables and fruits and meat. And we are going to create a recipe with the produce that's on hand. And you guys are going to be there with me as I pick the produce and pick the protein. And we will create it. And so the fun thing for you guys is that you're going to see what my process is. And when I'm creating a recipe, when I'm coming up with that recipe, you're going to watch how I go and pick what I'm going to do. And you'll be able to write it down and get a feel for what that looks like. 98% of what I make is not coming from, oh, let's go look this up in a recipe book. 98% of what I make is what I see in the store at the time and how it hits me. What are the textures of this recipe going to be? What are the flavor profiles going to be? And how is this going to pair? What's it going to look good with or next to? And so that's my plan for the next Cooking with TC. I'm not sure which day we're going to do that. It will take a little coordinating on my end. Skipper hopefully will have everything set up for that by then. So that's my plan for the next Cooking with TC. So I'm going to end this here. I've got a show over on my channel starting at 2 p.m. Central. So 12 West Coast time, California time if you prefer, or 3 if you're on the East Coast. And we're going to be sitting down and having a conversation with Mayor Justin Maliner from here in town to follow up from our last town hall meeting. And thank you very much to everybody who's watched today. And thank you very much to everybody who tuned in for the live stream on Wednesday. I had nearly 20,000 viewers. And a lot of them were from here on Veteran Nation, people that have followed me from Vet Nation. So thank you so much, Skipper. I am ready to go. So go ahead and end this. And as always, everybody, thank you for being worth serving.